Welcome to the Only Motors Archives, where we'll share with you our motoring experiences.
Let's see what lies in store.
Because we love cars.
This one, it kicks like a mule.
We're taking you to all the places a petrolhead loves with the help of our knowledgeable experts.
Only problem is, I've no idea what I'm supposed to be reviewing.
Whoa! What the hell's that? Meet the biggest enthusiasts in the industry.
You heard it here first. Chris Evans no longer has white Ferraris.
Don't have a single white Ferrari.
Motoring madness.
This is where all the magic happens.
Also, they're terrible at parking, so look for a car that's pretty outrageous that he's parked across 2 bays, like that.
Fun, speed, passion, all in one place. The Only Motors Archive. Welcome to the Only Motors Archives. On today's show, we have got something for everyone. A Porsche 997 Turbo, a giant toy car, a Tesla Model S, and a drone. But first up, we are going to look at some impressively stylized car sculptures.
My name is Robin Bark. Started probably from the moment of birth, certainly from the first time I saw a car that meant something to me. I saw an MG on a garage forecourt when I was about 3.5, and I couldn't get away from it, and my mother had the embarrassing task of having to drag me away, kicking and screaming like a child from a sweet counter. And since then, I've drawn them, painted them, restored them, driven them, and I just love cars. I've just got rid of my last classic car, which was a Sunbeam Talbot, but I've had MGTCs, MGAs, Austins, Austin 7s, and various motorbikes as well. But at the moment I don't have time for much apart from this, because having given up my job when my children grew up, I decided I'd return to what I really like to do, which was to draw and paint cars, and that's what I'm doing. It delights me. I'm so pleased that people like them, and that's why I do. I like doing shows to meet people and talk to them about things, which is always fun. And I try with people who buy them over the website as well. We usually have a bit of a dialogue by email or sometimes on the phone, just chatting about these things. So it's brilliant fun. You know, when I taught for years while my children were growing up, to support them, because I thought I had better have a proper job, but I'm very pleased to get back to what I want to do. This one, which is the 1953 Jabique car, it was a world land speed record Jaguar that set up the ultimate record on the Jabique highway in Belgium in 1953. They put a Perspex bubble on it, so it's called the Bubble Jag, and the man Norman Dewis, who drove it in 1953, set up it was 174.6, I think, but it's about 174 miles an hour. He set up as the ultimate record, and I think after that they closed it to speed testing because they said it was far too dangerous. But Norman is still alive. He's 93, incredibly active. I was over in America last year at Pebble Beach, and so was he. He signed a whole series of them as a limited edition. We're doing 120 of them, and he signs each one and also signs the box, and so we'll just produce 120 of these. But he was over in America at 93, entertaining groups of people and whole halls full of people with his fabulous Jaguar stories, because he drove at Le Mans and all sorts of other places. He had a very interesting life with Jaguar. I didn't know it would take off like this at all. I thought it would just be something to do. When I finally thought that I didn't have to have a regular job any longer, and I would go back to painting and drawing. I mean, I quite like landscape painting and sculpture and all sorts of things. But when it came to it, I thought, well, no, I really love cars. I'm just going to do cars. And so I started painting and doing this sculpture. And And now it's actually a full-time job because I've got a long list of things that people want me to do, and who knows that I'll live long enough to be able to do them all, but I'll have a good go.
From big cars made mini to mini cars made big, the next feature combines a huge dose of creativity and childhood nostalgia.
Today, I'm going to give you a unique experience. A unique experience both for me and hopefully for you. Unique in the sense that I'm going to be doing a car review, and the car I'm going to be reviewing is unique. Now, some would say I'm a massive child, so what a massive child needs is a massive toy. Technically, car reviews are not just about the car, they're about the angles. Angles that can occur from absolutely anywhere. This is the Toy Town Coupe. So let's talk specs. It's got 4 wheels. It's bigger than the
No, it just doesn't work.
What?
Well, you don't do reviews. You're not.
Yeah, but I thought, you know, but being as it's obviously a bit unique, I'm unique. I could do
No.
I can't do a car review.
Well, you don't really know enough.
Oh, let's just get the bloke who did it, and he'll know about it. Then we can sort it out like that.
Okay.
What is it with me chatting to bald people constantly on these shoots? It's like Only Motors will only have bald people. Anyway, John, liking your hairstyle.
Thank
nice
you very
to
much.
meet you.
Best people.
So obviously you're the creator of this fine vehicle.
Yeah.
I'm sure many journalists and all those kind of people have asked you why. So I'm not going to do that. In fact, I am going to ask you why. Why have you got those things in your face and ears?
I like to be different.
Yeah,
I'm just not a normal person.
Yeah.
So yeah, and plus that I've got no hair.
Also, I know this isn't about the car, but when you're maybe getting affectionate with someone, do you not stab them accidentally?
Yes.
Oh, okay, fair enough. So let's talk the car.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to go for this kind of type of toy rather than a noddy vehicle or something like that?
Well, it was actually down to one of the guys who works with us.
Yeah.
He'd actually motorised a real plastic one for his boy, and he said about it. And of course, I'm off on a tangent as soon as I'm thinking about things. And I thought I've got to make a road going one, road legal one. And the Dame Matiz had the right headlights, and straight away I just saw a road going one. That's it.
I mean, what kind of work goes into creating something like this? Because you obviously wanted it to make it look exactly like the classic Type that we all know and love from our childhood.
Yeah.
But obviously there's a lot of engineering that goes into it. How does that come
massive
about?
amount. Well, I've done the original drawings based on the Dave Matiz picture.
Yeah.
And I knew I had to shorten it. It had to be shortened 760 mil. So I worked out all the distances bits had got to move. I knew how high the roof had to be to keep it physically looking correct.
Yeah.
I wanted to keep all the kind of solid moulded look as well, because the toy's only got one door. It floods, it gets soaking wet seats and drinks holders when it gets wet. Yeah, exactly. So that's the same. So there's a few essences I knew I wanted to build into it.
Yeah.
It's really, really close to the spec of the original drawings. That's it.
And what's under the hood? How fast can it go? All those kind of
usual
details.
stuff. Yeah, it was a Daewoo Matiz,
Right.
Mark 1. It's a little 3-cylinder 800cc engine, I think it is. It will do about 75 at a push. Because it's shorter wheelbase, it tends to be a little bit skitty on the road.
Little bit
little woo.
And is there much that goes into actually making one of these things road legal? I mean, when you go, do they go, no, you're not, don't be silly.
Yeah, it was a big push, a real big push. But I mean, we spent 1,000 hours in it. I wasn't about to sort of not let it go road legal. It had to be road legal. That was one of the main things. So I carefully looked for all the kind of criteria involved in making kit cars and stuff, and what was actually required.
Apparently, it's not just the issue build. This is it's not just a passion. It's
This isn't
wasn't a one-off.
It's your hobby, it's your life.
Yeah. We kind of got involved in building promo vehicles and unusual vehicles, kind of foreign customs, modifying sports vehicles. So it goes right across the board at how far we'll go.
So you would consider yourself both the way you look and the things you create quite unique.
Yeah.
So when I started doing the unique thing as a car review, I was bob on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, spot on.
So I think we'll go for a bit of a drive in it in a bit, and I'm going to be safe in it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. And obviously in all kind of vehicles, you get people who get annoyed, get a bit of road rage. You ever experienced anyone like behind you go, "Come on, you weird-looking bald person in your weird car"?
Never ever. No,
so
not a thing.
It's kind of a nice thing to.
It's a pacifier.
Yeah, pacifier.
It's a pacifier, giant pacifier.
Well, I'm up for pacifying this beautiful area that we're in. So let's go pacify in the toy coupe. Oh, perfect place to park. Well, thank you very much. It's, as I said at the beginning of this whole film, unique experience, John.
Thank you very much indeed.
I appreciate that. I don't really need a lift back because I need to go wash all the flies out of my face, but you know, that's part and parcel of the deal. But cheers, thanks a lot.
You're most welcome. Thank you very much.
There's no door.
There is no door.
I've got to get out like this, yeah? This is the most... Normally they end these kind of films where it's all looking cool and whatever, but no, I have to kind of strad. Oh, hello, sorry about that, I'll pay. The boss will pay for that. But anyway, cheers, mate.
Okay.
See you again sometime. Next vehicle you create, get a windscreen on it. Cheers.
As toy cars go, it does not get any better than that. After the break, we go from toy cars to big boy toys with the Porsche 997 Turbo, and we pay a visit to the aerial factory. Not an aerial factory like aerial antennas, the aerial factory, where they make the atom. Welcome back to the archives. The Porsche 911 has been around for over 50 years and it is seen as one of the performance benchmarks for sports cars. The 997 Turbo is one of the most powerful variants available, and here's what happened when we got behind the wheel of one.
Way back when, before I was born, 1963 to be precise, Ferdinand Alexander Porsche designed what he called the 901. Real petrol heads know it as the 997, and those that are somewhere in between just know it as a 911. But it is unmistakably one of the most beautiful and iconic cars on today's roads. The 997 is a design and engineering icon, pretty much better than anything else on the road. But don't just take my word for that. MOT testing stations have a little known fact. 81% of all 997s pass their MOT first time. If that doesn't tell you it's brilliant engineering, nothing else will. The Porsche 997 is beautifully equipped with a 3.6 litre, 473 brake horsepower engine. With its 3.6 litre petrol engine, this baby kicks out nearly 480 brake horsepower. Twin turbocharged, basically goes like the wind. 0 to 60, 3.8 seconds. That's enough to blow my hair off. But much, much more than that. This is an act of magic, where people take the biggest possible lump they can find and somehow shoehorn it into the back of this car. with rear wheel drive and all the weight over the back, it can be a bit skittish in the weather. But if you're just a bit sensitive with the throttle, you can have an awful lot of fun as it steps out and just gently warms the tyres. Any petrol head sitting here in the 997 would enjoy the experience. But it gets a whole heap better once you switch it on and give the right foot a little bit of love. One of the great things about being in a Porsche is its simplicity. There is nothing in here which doesn't need to be here. Very simple dials, simple controls, a steering wheel used just for steering, and that's the way it should be. There's not a lot of road noise from the tyres, which is brilliant because that allows me to hear that 3.6 litre engine pump out the 480 brake horsepower, and man does that sound good. Oh, what a lot of fun! For anyone owning a Porsche 997, it's a joy, it's a wonder, it's something some people wait their whole lives to achieve and never do. Sure, it costs a lot to run, sure the maintenance is high, it does about 24 miles to the gallon on a good day, but you know what? Who cares? It's a Porsche and it is perfect.
That was the Porsche 997 Turbo, a great example of a performance car designed for simplicity. And for one simplified concept to another, here is our tour of the aerial factory.
The original aerial company started in 1870 when they painted in the tension spoke wheel, which is their first big claim to fame, and they made what you and I know as a penny farthing. So the one with the big wheel at the front and the kind of the tiny one at the back. So it already started radical.
James Starley did that in 1870, so a long time ago. It was pretty revolutionary in its time. It was he patented the spoke wheel. So all the spoke wheels you see on bicycles and everything else is down to the guy who started aerial. And it was the first geared vehicle as well in the UK. So it was really early engineering and lots of innovation, which aerial has always been famous for. They went on to do tricycles, powered quadricycles, which is the one we've got in here. They were at the first race at Brooklands racetrack. I think they won the second race. So they were kind of right there at the beginnings of cars and vehicles and everything else. They went on to specialise in motorcycles because they did two-wheelers, three-wheelers, four-wheelers, all kinds of things. But they're really well known for the motorcycles, and also, as I say, really well known for innovation. So the Aerial Square 4, which is over there, was a four-cylinder motorcycle, 1930, 1931, very revolutionary, two crankshafts. In its time, it was almost like a Rolls Royce of the motorcycle world.
Then the company went under in about 1970 after it was bought by BSA, then was dormant for 30 odd years, and we bought the name and came out with the Aerial Atom in 1999, some 15 years ago, and we're kind of, in our purpose-built premises. Yeah, it's going very well.
We brought Aerial back late 90s, and the Atom was the first car under the new Aerial. We started off looking at the Atom mid-90s, or not, it wasn't known as the Atom then, we called it the lightweight sports car, with a view to analysing what the minimum was you needed in a sports car.
Back in kind of like the late 90s, the track day market was starting to get quite big, and you could get things like Caterhams, Westfields, all that. That's all again made all in this country as well, which is always good. Anything British is good by our standards, but it just needed something else. It needed something new, something fresh, and the idea was that you could take it out your garage, drive it on the road, take it to the circuit, be faster than everything else around the circuit, and then drive back home again.
So it's kind of going back to Colin Chapman, who started Lotus. It's going back to the original Lotus 7, which was a minimal car, and we wanted to do like a 21st century take on what a new Lotus 7 might be. So it wasn't going to look like a Lotus 7, but we wanted the kind of essence of that is actually stripping the car down to the real minimum of what it needed to be. And the big thing about the lightness in the car is all about power to weight ratios. So you can have a big heavy car with lots of power, like a Lamborghini Murcielago for instance, which maybe weighs 1.5 tons and it's got 600 brake horsepower. But if you have a car that's 0.5 ton and only has 200 brake horsepower, the power to weight ratio is actually much better. So the whole essence of the Atom, of the lightweight sports car as it started, is about keeping everything to a minimum, getting rid of all the unwanted things, keeping the weight down to the absolute basics. So that's one reason why on the Atom there's an awful lot of things you don't have. You don't have a roof, you don't have doors, you don't have stereos, you don't have cup holders. There's a very long list of things you don't have. But what you have got are beautifully made components and also the things that are going to make the car perform.
Well, that was part one of our tour of the Aerial factory, home to one of the UK's smallest automotive manufacturers, with around 20 people producing up to 100 cars a year. And those production numbers are sure to increase with the addition of 2 new vehicles to the Aerial lineup, the Ace motorcycle and the Nomad buggy. Anyway, time for a break, so go pop in the kettle, go to the toilet, or do what I do and grab a bowl of cereal, because after the break we're going back to the Aerial factory to get a ride in the world's first exoskeletal car, the Aerial Atom, and we're going high-tech with the Tesla Model S and a drone. Welcome back to the archives. We're now heading back to Somerset to go behind the scenes of one of Britain's most innovative lightweight sports car manufacturers, Aerial.
So this is our showroom where we bring, this is the kind of our reception area where we bring all our new customers, and if we ever have a tour or anything like that coming. So we've got various bits of old Aerial memorabilia and some of our one-off specials that we've done over the years. We've got the V8 car over there that did the Top Gear lap record. This car has a titanium chassis, that's one of a kind. We don't think we'll ever build another one of those. But it's always nice to have something special, and it draws, things like the titanium car and the V8 draw in interest into the company. So even if someone doesn't come in and buy a V8, they might come in and say, oh well, but I can afford, you know, the entry level one. So it's all about kind of self-perpetuation. Do something new and exciting that draws people to your kind of bread and butter product. We don't do any manufacturing on site. We are design, test and assembly. And then we kind of buy in the chassis and all the body panels and the electrics and the engines. And then one of our technicians has a build bay where his tools are at the back, and then he builds the whole car from start to finish. So it's quite a difficult process to choose different parts because there are so many places that do kind of a very similar part. So what we like to do is we like to kind of amalgamate all the different ones, pick the best one and use that one. So these are our recent aerial motorcycles, and this is our chief motorcycle technician, Reg. Well, we've got the aerial bike. It's called an Ace, and it's just totally different to everything else. I mean, what's your favourite bit about it?
Well, I like the frame. The fact that the frame is CNC aluminium from billet, so it's actually machined from a whole billet. But we also, for this particular bike here, the cruiser style bike as we're calling it, it also has quite a unique suspension setup on the front, which we're calling the aerial girder system. And it's very, very tunable. It's very different, so it gives the bike a whole new different look, really, doesn't it? And you know, it just enables you to be able to tune the suspension in different ways. We're using a TTX Olin shock, which is a very advanced sort of shock absorber, really, which makes this system a little bit more worthwhile doing because you can actually make it work as opposed to not really being that a viable option. It's a Honda engine, again sort of coming off the back of a very successful relationship with Honda with the Atoms, but it's a Honda motorcycle engine. It's out of a VFR 1200 where it also has the option of DCT transmission, so we can give the customer manual DCT transmission. Very, very reliable unit. It's a V4 configuration. It's about 173 horsepower.
Our service department, much like our new build workshop. We've got one guy in one bay that does servicing and accident repair if anyone's unfortunate enough to have a little accident. Everything can be done in here. We've got the ramp over there, so we can lift the cars up and get the oil changed nice and easily, keep everything nice and clean. As you can see, we keep it fairly spotless to kind of that, and that in turn keeps the cars very clean, so you're not kind of treading oil all over the place and that sort of stuff. So that, say, a car will come in, it can be stripped down in here and have any parts replaced that it needs or upgrades. For example, a lot of customers come in for their service every year and they see something new that we've developed. So we can retrofit all of that stuff, and it doesn't matter how old your car is, all the new parts will fit on your old car. So if you want the latest and greatest suspension, even if your car's 13 years old, it still fits. We get guys that never take their car on a racetrack ever, and they just come in for an oil change. We've got a chap that lives up in Bath, so quite local to us. Every year, oil change, and that's it. And the car just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. But then on the other side, you've got people that come in and want all sorts of different stuff. We never like to see the cars come back in, you know, with any damage. But the cars are very, very strong and very safe. So even if you do something quite major, you don't have to worry too much about it, because we know the car's inside out and we can have it repaired in a jiffy.
try and make a virtue out of being small. The danger for a lot of small automotive companies is trying to take on the big boys at their own game. If you do that, you'll fail. So what we try and do is take on the big boys in our own way. So there are things you can do. It's a bit of a David and Goliath kind of situation, but there are things you can do as a small manufacturer that you can't as a big manufacturer. So we can hand weld all our chassis. The composites are all handmade, and that's to do with the car. But on from that, we know all our owners on first name terms. So it's like being part of a family, and it's a very tight-knit community. The Atom owners, we all get on very well together. So there's lots of virtues in being a very small company, and we don't want to become a big company. We have no aspirations to take over Ford or General Motors, so we're quite happy they do their thing and we do ours. And it's all about demonstrating what you're good at, I think, being this small.
The reason we've stayed small is it's very nice to grow, but you don't want to grow too quickly. If you kind of went into a massive workshop and built all the cars you had on order in 2 weeks, you might, it depends. It depends what the market demand is like. So at the moment, the market is always very slightly expanding, and we can keep on top of that here. We can build about 100 cars a year here, and that's about where the demand is. Customers can come in when they've ordered a car, have a cup of tea with the guy that's building the car, and muck in if they want, put a spanner on a couple of the wishbone bolts, or put some wheels on.
Our background is automotive designers, and people tend to think, you have these little brain waves and you sketch something on a napkin and then you go and make it. It doesn't happen like that. When we were designing the car, we looked at, I think we ended up with 75 different connotations of engine in the front, engine in the back, engine at the side, 2 people side by side, 2 people in tandem, 1 person, 3 people, 4 people. We had some really interesting configurations which we probably couldn't have built, but actually we did it in quite a logical, scientific, designerly way. So this is the product of not only a lot of design work and thought, but also what a car and how a car should be made at low volume.
Being a family business, obviously at some point my brother and I will kind of take the reins, as it were, and we'd always like to be producing an Atom or a variant of the Atom, and kind of the more cars we sell, the more cars there are to service, which creates a business in itself. And obviously we've just released a motorcycle, so hopefully that will be as successful or more successful than the car. And you never know, there's always special aerial things on the books, so yeah, keep watching this space.
So that was our look at the internal workings of the aerial factory. After the break, we're going ultra tech with the Tesla Model S and the Inspire 1. Welcome back to the archives. This section I'm going to call our technology section, as we're going to ramp things up about 10 notches or so. The first thing we're going to look at is the Inspire 1 drone.
Today I'm here in some Roman ruins because apparently I'm going to be reviewing some sort of gadget. So that's modern technology in historical settings. Only problem is I've no idea what I'm supposed to be reviewing. And what's that noise? Is someone mowing a lawn or something? Whoa! What the hell's that? So the gadget I'm apparently reviewing is this thing. It's a flying thing with cameras.
Well, all right, I need to be a bit more specific. In the gadget world, drones, in particular 4-rotor quadcopters, have exploded in popularity in the last couple of years. They're especially good as camera platforms, which apparently has led to a rapidly growing niche for quadcopters with built-in cameras. And yes, I am reading this.
Now, this is the Inspire 1, as I believe it's called. Someone just told me that. The first thing I'd like to point out is, as much as it can be quite fun and amazing, it's quite dangerous if it's utilised by the wrong people. That's why the person with the remote control, I've locked in the car. Although it's incredibly fun to use, which we'll show you in a bit, and takes incredible footage, so the geeks have led me to believe, unfortunately, it cost 2,380 quid. That's nearly 3 grand. I mean, surely, you know, making these films, there's got to be some easy way of doing overhead shots of a 6'5" man. I need a word, right? I've got a better idea of what we could do. If you just climb the hill and then film me from above, move around a bit, less buzzing noises. You don't mind carrying that though, do you? Because I've got a bad back. Well, come on then. How heavy are these things? Go on, get up the hill. The idea of this thing is for me to prove that it's cheaper just to climb a tree and film overhead shots. Incredible overhead shots for just the cheap price of an Only Motors employee and a camera. Hey? Are you all right? It's not too high up there, is it? Is this not working? So in my attempt to prove that there are cheaper ways of getting great overhead shots, I've just proved there isn't because of our lame camera woman.
Do you know how high that was?
Yeah, all right, it was high, but you know, it's not that high. You could have got up there. But anyway, all right. Well, obviously that didn't quite work. So to continue the review of how to get great overhead footage, I suppose I'm going to have to fly that thing, aren't I? Okay, this looks pretty easy enough. Let's have a go. Right.
The DJI Inspire 1 will reduce your bank balance considerably, but it's a sophisticated piece of kit though. With carbon fibre landing gear that lowers and lifts automatically on takeoff and landing, the camera's 94-degree field of view is unobstructed as it captures video at resolutions up to 4K at 30 FPS. It does 1080p at 60 FPS as well and 12 megapixel stills. I've literally no idea what I've just said. The camera rotates to a massive 360 degrees and tilts a huge 125 degrees. It is attached to a 3-axis gimbal that moves smoothly even in high wind. What is a gimbal? I knew a gimp once. Anyway, it is sturdy and easily removable, so you can fly with no camera and replace/upgrade it, all with no tools. Therefore, even if you're the world's worst drone operator, you won't get wonky shots. The remote has controls for the camera built in, or a second pilot can use a separate controller for it. Integrated wireless transmission live streams 1080p videos to iOS and Android devices from up to a mile away. Still no idea what I'm saying. USB and HDMI outputs on the copter allow devices to be connected. Basically, if you've got loads of spare cash, get one.
If Star Wars had massive stormtrooper bees, this is what they look like.
The Inspire 1 comes ready to fly. You simply attach the props, charge up the battery, and off you go.
I could be an expert at this. It's quite easy to use as well, which I'm kind of loving. So all I need is 2,380 quid and we can get some amazing shots of a massive tall man. It's better than a woman climbing up a hill, I've got to be honest.
The beauty of Only Motors is that we love gadgets just as much as our cars, and the drone is a prime example of that. The final feature in today's show is pretty much just a gadget on wheels. It's the Tesla Model S.
In many ways, the Tesla Model S is remarkably normal. As large saloons go, it's very handsome. But it's no spaceship. It has more boot space than some big estates. The interior is huge, but not unprecedentedly so. The enormous 17-inch touchscreen display is very impressive, but you'll find something similar in the Mercedes S-Class. You don't have to physically turn the Model S on, but you drive it with a steering wheel and pedals. It might feel a bit strange at first if you're not used to electric cars, but we found it almost totally intuitive, and it drives much like any other large sports saloon. The Model S just isn't normal, not by a long shot. Its svelte shape is dictated by range-extending aerodynamics. There's so much space because everything that makes the car move is contained entirely within the chassis. In fact, despite the fastback shape, it has more boot space than some big estates. You can even have a pair of rear-facing kiddie seats. And there's yet more space under the bonnet. When you drive it, the first thing you notice is the sheer silence. Yes, most big saloons do run very quietly these days, but the Model S makes them sound like a thrash metal band in comparison. There's the occasional whir from a motor, and the 21-inch wheels on our car threw up a lot of road rumble. But with smaller rims, a heavier man in trainers would be noisier. You can have the Model S with 3 battery strengths. We drove the most powerful, the 85 kWh performance version, which produces 469 bhp and 442 pound-foot of torque. Most of the time it feels like a big diesel, with that same feeling of relentless, easygoing torque. So much so, it's easy to forget exactly what you've got under your foot. All that power and pull is dumped on the road instantly. If you prod the go pedal harder than you mean to, it's actually quite alarming. Mash it down on purpose, and it's bloody hilarious. Sheer responsiveness and smoothness of the powertrain kicks internal combustion into the weeds. The regenerative braking feels a bit weird at first. The car slowing down without touching the brake pedal as energy is channeled back into the battery, but you soon get used to it. Swing down a twisty road and the Model S handles like any of its rivals. The heavy batteries in the chassis give it a low centre of gravity and 50-50 weight distribution, so it changes direction keenly with sharp steering and well-controlled body movements. But it isn't especially involving. We can't talk about the electric car without discussing the range. Tesla claim around 260 miles on a full charge, though 150 to 200 is closer to reality. A full charge from a domestic socket can take up to 24 hours, but from next year, UK customers can buy a wall-mounted fast charger for their home. Tesla is also rolling out its supercharger network across the UK, which will deliver about 170 miles of range in 30 minutes. Our test car lists at £85,000 before options, and it simply doesn't look or drive and isn't built like an 85 grand car. But you're paying for the technology and the potential savings. Tesla says a full recharge costs less than £7. There's no road or company car tax to pay, and with very few moving parts, servicing will cost peanuts. The Model S has some niggling issues. The display isn't that intuitive to use, there's no useful interior storage, the brakes aren't very good, and the quality leaves something to be desired. But we are completely sold. It's just so easy, smooth, and responsive. Some of the hype would have you believe that the Tesla Model S is the automotive second coming. It isn't that, but it is one hell of a shot across the bows of every other car.